Sometimes in life, when you're going through trials and difficulties, you may feel like God is distant or that you are being abandoned. But I want to remind you today that some of the most significant moments of your life are happening when things feel the hardest. You see, the truth is, challenges and adversity are often the very things that prepare us for what's coming. They are not a sign of failure, but a sign that God is preparing you for something greater. When you're about to step into your breakthrough, the test becomes harder because your destiny is about to unfold. In times of testing, it can seem like everything you've worked for is being questioned. The path you thought was clear suddenly becomes blurry. You may find yourself in situations where you feel like giving up, like your prayers are unanswered, or your efforts go unnoticed. But that's when you need to understand that God is not punishing you. He is refining you. He is purifying your character, strengthening your faith, and positioning you for the greatness that lies ahead. Think about the process of gold being refined. The gold goes through the fire to remove impurities, and it's only after that fire that the true beauty of the gold is revealed. Your tests are a fire, and if you can hold on and endure, the breakthrough that awaits will be far greater than you could ever imagine. You might feel exhausted, overwhelmed, and even alone, but that is when God is doing His best work in you. Sometimes the test involves patience. When things seem delayed, it's easy to question whether you're on the right path. But God is teaching you to trust in His timing. His timing is never early and it's never late. He is always on time. The fact that you've been waiting for so long means that God is preparing something bigger than what you could ask or think. Other times, God may test your faith by taking you through a season of isolation. It feels as though everyone around you has forgotten about you and no one seems to understand your struggles. But understand this, during seasons of isolation, God is getting ready to reveal to you who you truly are. It is in those quiet moments when you stop relying on people and start relying on God that you begin to realize your true strength. God also tests your attitude in the middle of difficulty. How do you respond when things don't go as planned? Do you complain or do you keep your heart right? Are you still praising God even when you don't see immediate results? How you respond in these moments matters. It is in your response to adversity that your character is shaped. And it is your character that will sustain you when you enter your breakthrough adversity. It is often seen as something to avoid, something that hinders progress and brings discomfort. However, in the kingdom of God, adversity serves a different purpose. It is not an obstacle to your destiny, but a stepping stone to greatness. The challenges you face today are preparing you for the greater things that lie ahead. When we encounter difficulty, we tend to focus on the pain and the immediate discomfort. But if we look deeper, we begin to see the hand of God shaping us for the future. Every challenge, every trial, every setback is not merely a random occurrence. It is a part of a divine process that positions you for a breakthrough that you cannot yet fully comprehend. In times of difficulty, we often ask why this is happening to us. But the real question should be, what is this preparing me for? God uses adversity to mold us into individuals who are capable of carrying the weight of the destiny He has for us. If you are experiencing a trial, it is because there is something in you that God is working on, something that needs to be refined, strengthened, or developed. Without adversity, you would never reach the place where you can truly appreciate the breakthrough that God is preparing you for. Think about the process of refining gold. Gold is placed in fire not because it is of no value, but because its impurities need to be removed. The heat of the fire does not destroy the gold, but purifies it. It is the same with us. When we go through difficult seasons, God is not trying to harm us. He is trying to remove the impurities in our character, attitudes, and mindsets that would prevent us from walking in the fullness of His purpose for our lives. We may feel the heat of the fire, but it is in that heat that we are being refined into something stronger and more valuable. Adversity also forces us to rely on God in ways we wouldn't otherwise. When everything is going well, we may become self-reliant, thinking that our success and progress are the result of our own efforts. But when we are faced with challenges, we are reminded of our dependence on God. We learn to trust in His wisdom, His strength, and His timing. This dependence is critical for our spiritual growth. God is not just interested in us achieving success, but in us growing in intimacy with Him. The trials we face teach us to lean on Him and trust that He will see us through to the other side. Furthermore, adversity develops perseverance. The more you endure, the more you develop a resilience that enables you to face even greater challenges. Every trial builds your capacity to handle the next one. Think of it like physical training. The more you push your muscles, the stronger they become. In the same way, your spiritual muscles are strengthened when you face adversity and continue to press forward. As you persevere, you learn that you are capable of handling more than you ever thought possible. Each victory over adversity increases your faith and your ability to tackle future challenges. Adversity also builds empathy. When you go through difficulties, you begin to understand the struggles of others on a deeper level. This understanding allows you to offer support and encouragement to those who are going through similar trials. You become a source of strength for others because you have walked through the fire yourself. Your testimony of overcoming adversity becomes a beacon of hope to those who are struggling, showing them that if God brought you through it, He can bring them through it as well. Finally, adversity reveals the greatness within you. It may not be obvious at first, but when you look back after a season of trials, you realize that you have grown in ways you never expected. The person you were before the trial is not the same as the person you are after. You have developed a greater sense of purpose, a deeper level of faith, and a stronger resolve to fulfill the calling God has placed on your life. God's timing is one of the most critical aspects of His plan for you. The greatest asset God has given you is the refining fire that makes you stronger, more resilient, and more prepared for the breakthrough that God has in store for you. God's timing is one of the most critical aspects of His plan for our life. When we are facing challenges or waiting for breakthroughs, it's easy to become frustrated with the delays and the unanswered prayers. We live in a world that thrives on immediacy, where we expect things to happen quickly, and when they don't, we question whether we're on the right path or whether God is even listening. However, God's timing is perfect. And understanding this truth can radically change how we approach delays in our lives. First, it's essential to recognize that God's timing is not like our own. We are governed by the ticking of a clock, and we operate within a framework of deadlines and expectations. We see time as a limited resource, and the more time passes, the more anxious we become. But God is eternal. He does not see time the way we do. He operates in a realm beyond the constraints of time and space, which means His perspective on timing is vastly different from ours. His delays are not denials, they are divine appointments. When you're in the waiting period, it often feels like nothing is happening. You may have prayed for something, asked for direction, or sought a breakthrough, and yet it seems like God is silent. It is in these times that we must trust that God is working behind the scenes, even when we cannot see it. The silence does not mean that He is absent. It simply means that He is orchestrating things in the background that will align perfectly at the right moment. Sometimes delays occur because God is positioning people, resources, and opportunities in your life to ensure that when the breakthrough comes, it will be exactly what you need and more than what you expect. There's a profound truth in knowing that God is never late. We may feel like our prayers should have been answered by now, or that things should have moved forward, but God's timing is always on point. His delays are often not because He's trying to punish us, but because He is preparing us He's preparing us to receive the breakthrough with the right heart, the right character, and the right perspective. We may not be ready to handle what we're asking for yet. In fact, some of the things we desire may be too big for us in our current state. We may need time to develop the skills, wisdom, or strength to carry the weight of what's coming. God's perfect timing also speaks to the truth that He knows exactly what we need when we need it. He sees the entire picture, past, present, and future. We only see a small piece of it. Because God is all-knowing, He understands how every piece of our life needs to fall into place to achieve the greatest good for us. We might think we know what's best, but God, in His infinite wisdom, knows what we truly need and when the time is right. His timing, therefore, is not just about getting what we want at the right time, but getting what we need at the right time. Additionally, waiting on God builds our trust and faith in Him. It is easy to trust when things are going well and when everything is in motion. But it's in the waiting seasons that our faith is tested and refined. It's in those moments when we have to surrender our timelines and expectations that we learn to rely on God's faithfulness and goodness. When we choose to trust in His timing, we demonstrate our belief that He is in control and that He knows what's best for us, even if it doesn't look like what we envision. God's timing also teaches us patience, which is a key element of spiritual maturity. Patience is not simply waiting. It's how we wait. Are we waiting with anticipation and expectation, or are we growing resentful and impatient? God's delays are meant to teach us how to wait well. They prepare us to endure the seasons of uncertainty with a heart that is calm, trusting, and expectant. It's in the waiting that we learn to rely not on our own understanding, but on God's perfect plan for our lives. As difficult as it may seem when you're waiting for a breakthrough or direction, understand that God is never late. He is always on time. His delays are part of His process, and every waiting season has a purpose. Trust in His timing even when you don't understand it, because it will always work out for your good. There are times in life when we feel isolated, as if the world has moved on without us. It can be one of the most challenging and confusing seasons to endure. When we find ourselves separated from others, whether physically, emotionally, or spiritually, it's easy to feel abandoned or forgotten. But it is often in those moments of isolation that God is doing some of His most significant work in us. While the world around us may seem distant, God is drawing near to us, refining our character and revealing things to us that would not be clear in the noise of everyday life. Isolation is not always a punishment or a result of something we've done wrong. Sometimes it is part of God's design to mold us into the people we need to become. Think about the stories in Scripture where individuals were isolated, and it was during those times that they encountered God in a profound way. Consider the example of Moses. He spent 40 years in the wilderness away from his people, and in that isolation, God shaped him, prepared him, and spoke to him in ways that he could never have heard amidst the crowd. It was in his time of isolation that Moses discovered his purpose, heard the call of God, and began the journey that would change the course of history. Isolation also provides us with the opportunity to confront ourselves. When we are alone, we are faced with the truth of who we are. It's easy to hide behind relationships, busyness, or distractions. But in solitude, there is nowhere to run from ourselves. God uses these moments to show us the areas in our lives that need healing or growth. He brings to the surface insecurities, fears, and weaknesses that need to be dealt with so that we can become stronger, more grounded, and more aligned with His purpose. In isolation, we are given the space to reflect on our lives, our choices, and our relationship with God. It is in this solitude that we have the chance to examine what truly matters and to realign ourselves with God's plan. During these seasons, God also strengthens our dependence on Him. When we are isolated, we often can't rely on the comfort of friends, family, or familiar routine. It's in these moments that we learn to lean on God more fully because He is the only constant presence in our lives. When others are not around, God remains faithful. His presence becomes more tangible and His voice becomes clearer. Isolation teaches us that our true source of strength does not come from external support, but from our relationship with God. The more we rely on Him, the more we experience His faithfulness and provision, even in our aloneness. It is in our isolation that we learn to trust God in deeper ways. Isolation also fosters a deep intimacy with God. When we are surrounded by the noise of the world, it can be difficult to hear God's voice clearly. But when we are alone, we are often more attuned to His presence. We have the time and space to seek Him earnestly, to listen for His direction, and to cultivate a deeper relationship with Him. God desires to speak to us personally, and isolation provides the perfect opportunity to hear His voice without distractions. In those quiet moments, we may find ourselves receiving wisdom, guidance, and revelation that we would have missed in the midst of busyness. The process of being alone also develops our inner strength. God knows that to carry the weight of the destiny He has planned for us, we must be able to stand firm on our own, relying on His strength rather than the approval or support of others. It's in times of isolation that our character is tested, and we learn how to stay grounded in our faith, even when no one is watching. Our ability to persevere through these lonely seasons equips us with the resilience we need to face future challenges. God doesn't waste any season of our lives. Even in isolation, He is working behind the scenes, preparing us for the next chapter of our journey. While it may feel like we are missing out on something or being left behind, God is actually positioning us for a deeper purpose and a more profound breakthrough. Isolation may be uncomfortable, but it is necessary for growth. It is during these times that we are often refined, strengthened, and transformed. Though the process may be painful, the fruit that comes from it is worth it. Through isolation, we learn to depend on God, discover our true selves, and grow in ways that would not be possible in the company of others. When you're in the midst of adversity, one of the most significant aspects of your journey is how you respond to the challenges you face. The way you react to difficulty shapes not only your present circumstances, but also your future. Life is full of tests, but it is how you handle those tests that will determine your growth and ultimate success. Your attitude during hardship reveals much about your character and will influence how you navigate the path to your breakthrough. We all face moments when things don't go according to plan. Plans fall apart, people disappoint us, and circumstances seem to work against us. In these moments, the temptation to complain, grow bitter, or give up can be overwhelming. It's easy to let frustration take over and to let negative emotions dictate your actions. However, when you choose to maintain a positive attitude in the face of adversity, you position yourself for growth and greater blessings. Your attitude becomes a reflection of your trust in God and His purpose for your life. It shows that no matter what the circumstances, you believe that God is in control and that He is working everything out for your good. A positive attitude does not mean pretending that everything is perfect or ignoring the reality of the situation. It means choosing to focus on God's promises instead of your problems. It means acknowledging the difficulty but refusing to be defeated by it. When you choose to respond with faith, gratitude, and patience, you demonstrate that you are not defined by your circumstances. You are defined by your faith in God and His ability to bring you through any situation. Your response becomes a testament to your strength and your belief that God's plan for your life will prevail no matter the opposition. Having the right attitude in adversity also involves a willingness to persevere. Life's challenges are often not short-lived. There are seasons where it feels like the struggle will never end. In these seasons, it is easy to lose hope and start questioning whether you'll ever make it through. But perseverance is the key to unlocking the breakthrough that lies on the other side of adversity. A person with the right attitude doesn't give up just because things get hard. They keep pushing forward even when the road is long and difficult. Perseverance is a sign that you have not lost sight of your purpose, even in the midst of challenges. Moreover, how you handle adversity will reveal the depth of your faith. When things are tough, it's easy to trust God when you can see the way forward. But faith is most powerful when you can't see the solution and you're still willing to trust. Choosing to trust God even when everything around you suggests otherwise strengthens your faith and solidifies your reliance on Him. It is in these moments that you learn to lean on God's strength, knowing that He is your sustainer and that He has never failed you before. When you maintain a steadfast attitude of trust, you build a foundation that will hold strong in future trials. The right attitude in adversity also keeps your heart aligned with God's will. In difficult times, it is easy to become frustrated or bitter, but those emotions can cloud your judgment and steer you away from God's purpose for your life. If you allow negative emotions to take root, they can take you off course and prevent you from seeing the opportunities that God is providing in the midst of your trial. On the other hand, when you keep a positive, faithful attitude, you are more open to seeing the lessons and growth that adversity brings. You are more likely to recognize the wisdom that God is imparting to you and the areas of your life that He is transforming. Finally, the way you respond to adversity has a lasting impact on those around you. People are always watching, whether you realize it or not. When you maintain a positive attitude and respond with grace and patience during challenging times, you become a source of inspiration to others. Your strength in adversity shows them that it is possible to endure hardship with faith and integrity. You become a living testimony to the power of God's presence in your life and the effectiveness of maintaining the right attitude, no matter the circumstances. Your response becomes a beacon of hope to those who may be struggling with their own challenges. In the end, how you respond to adversity shapes your destiny. Your attitude in the face of challenges determines how you will grow, how your faith will develop, and how you will be prepared for the breakthrough that is coming. When you choose to maintain a positive, faithful attitude, you align yourself with God's purpose and position yourself for greater success. God has an incredible way of expanding our capacity, often by putting us in situations where we feel stretched beyond what we thought we could handle. It's easy to become comfortable in a space where everything is familiar and manageable. But growth rarely happens in a place of comfort. If you find yourself being stretched, being asked to do more than you feel capable of, or facing challenges that seem to be increasing in magnitude, understand that God is preparing you for a greater purpose. The very things that feel overwhelming right now are the things that are expanding your capacity to receive what God has in store for you. We often have a limited view of our potential, seeing only what we can handle at this moment. But God sees far beyond that. He knows the purpose He has for our lives, and sometimes that purpose requires a bigger capacity than we currently possess. When God stretches us, it's because He is preparing us to handle the larger responsibilities and blessings that are coming our way. It may feel like you are being pushed beyond your limits, but in reality, God is giving you the opportunity to grow in ways that will increase your ability to manage and steward the bigger things He wants to place in your hands. Sometimes the stretching is uncomfortable. When God increases the demands on your life, it can feel like you're being asked to do the impossible. But the discomfort is often a sign of progress. Just like when you're working out and your muscles are sore from being stretched, this is when real growth happens. If your muscles never experience that stretch, they would never become stronger. The same is true for your faith, your patience, your resilience, and your ability to lead. When God stretches you, He is strengthening those areas in your life that need to grow to carry the weight of the blessings ahead. It's not about pushing you past your breaking point. It's about increasing your capacity for greatness. Growth also requires an increase in responsibility. When God sees that you are ready for more, He will often allow you to take on more tasks, more leadership, more challenges. At first, this can feel overwhelming, especially when you are already doing everything you think you can handle. But understand that the more responsibility God entrusts to you, the more He is preparing you for a larger role. He is testing your ability to manage the tasks He's already given you, so that when He pours out more blessings, you are ready to handle them without being crushed by them. This stretching process can involve stepping into unfamiliar territory or taking on new roles that force you to grow in areas that you may not have anticipated. But it is in those moments of stretching that you discover new strengths, new abilities, and new perspectives that you didn't know existed within you. One of the most powerful aspects of being stretched is that it expands your vision. When you are asked to take on more than you thought you could, your perspective begins to shift. You begin to see the potential in situations and opportunities that once seemed impossible. God stretches your mind, your abilities, and your faith to see beyond the present moment into the future. He is preparing for you. What once seemed out of reach begins to seem possible because you've been stretched to believe in a bigger vision. This shift in vision allows you to see yourself walking in greater levels of influence, leadership, and purpose than you ever thought possible. Another aspect of being stretched is that it teaches you dependence on God. When you are stretched beyond your limits, it is impossible to rely solely on your own strength. It forces you to lean into God and trust Him more fully. You begin to realize that you cannot do it all on your own. And this realization is exactly where God wants you to be. It is in the moments of stretching that we learn to rely on His grace, His wisdom, and His provision. When you step out of your comfort zone and into the unknown, you must trust that God will provide the strength, the wisdom, and the resources to complete the task. Being stretched strengthens your faith, not because you're capable, but because you're trusting God to be your strength. Lastly, the stretching process deepens your character. Every challenge you face, every responsibility you take on, and every step you take beyond your current limits builds your character. You learn patience, perseverance, humility, and resilience. You learn to trust in God's process, even when it feels like you're being stretched to the breaking point. This growth in character will be crucial as you enter into the next season of your life, where you will need the strength of character to sustain the blessings that God is preparing for you. God doesn't just want to give you success. He wants to ensure that you can handle the success in a way that brings glory to Him. When you are being stretched, don't focus on the discomfort of the moment. Instead, focus on the greater capacity being developed in you. God is not stretching you to break you. He is stretching you to enlarge you for the purpose He has called you to. Every challenge, every responsibility, and every opportunity to grow is a chance for you to be expanded and prepared for the greater things God has for you. When facing the challenges of life, it can be easy to assume that setbacks are signs of failure, or that difficulties are a sign that we are on the wrong path. But in reality, tests are often the very things that God uses to prepare us for the breakthroughs that are just around the corner. It's important to recognize that tests are not the end, they are the beginning of something greater. They are not signs of defeat, but signs of progress, growth, and preparation. The difficulties you are experiencing are not there to destroy you, but to build you up for the victory that is ahead. Think about the process of testing in the natural world. When a metal is tested by fire, it doesn't become weaker, it becomes purer, stronger, and more refined. Similarly, when God allows us to go through tests, it is because He is refining us. The challenges we face in life often reveal areas of weakness, impatience, or fear that we may not have recognized before. These tests bring these issues to the surface so that they can be dealt with, so that we can move forward with a greater sense of purpose and strength. The tests are not meant to break us, but to help us become who God has destined us to be. Tests are also necessary for the development of our faith. When things are easy, it's easy to say we trust God. But when things get tough, our faith is truly tested. A trial can either reveal that our faith is weak, or it can strengthen our belief and trust in God. When we come through the testing season and see how God has carried us through, our faith grows deeper. We learn that He is faithful, that He is with us through every storm, and that He will not leave us nor forsake us. Each test we pass brings us one step closer to understanding the depth of God's love and faithfulness, and it strengthens our relationship with Him. Tests also bring clarity. When you're going through a difficult season, it forces you to focus. You are forced to make decisions, to prioritize what truly matters, and to trust in God's direction. In a season of testing, distractions fade away, and you begin to see with greater clarity what your purpose is and where God is leading you. What seemed unclear before suddenly becomes apparent. The test reveals the path that God wants you to take, and the strength and clarity you gain during the test become the foundation for your breakthrough. Furthermore, tests often help us develop the qualities that we will need to handle the success that God has prepared for us. Without the testing, we may not have the character or endurance necessary to handle the blessings that God is about to pour into our lives. Success without the character to sustain it can lead to destruction. But the tests allow God to develop patience, humility, perseverance, and wisdom in us. The very things that feel like obstacles today are often the very things that will prepare us to carry the weight of the blessings God has in store for us tomorrow. In addition, tests refine our perspective. Often, when we're in the midst of difficulty, it's easy to focus solely on the problem and become consumed by it. But God uses tests to shift our focus from the problem to the solution. Through tests, we are taught to rely more on God and less on our own abilities. When things are going well, we may become self-sufficient, thinking that we can handle everything on our own. But through tests, God reminds us of our dependence on Him. We are reminded that it's not by our might or power, but by His Spirit that we are able to overcome. As we pass through tests, we begin to see the world differently and to value things that are eternal rather than temporary. Tests are also a confirmation that you are on the right track. When you are moving toward a breakthrough, the enemy often tries to prevent your progress by bringing about opposition and difficulty. If you weren't on the right path, there would be no need for the enemy to fight you. The presence of tests often signals that you are closer to your breakthrough than you realize. The test is not a sign that you should give up. It's a sign that you are closer than ever to the victory that God has for you. The greater the test, the greater the reward. Because the greater the opposition, the greater the breakthrough on the other side. The beauty of life's tests is that they are temporary. While they may feel long and overwhelming in the moment, they will not last forever. After the test comes the breakthrough. Every test is a season that prepares you for what's next, for the greater things that God has in store for you. They are stepping stones, each one leading you closer to the fullness of God's purpose for your life. Tests do not define you. How you respond to them does. When you pass through the tests, you emerge stronger, more equipped, and ready to step into the breakthrough that God has already prepared for you. In every season of life, the challenges, tests, and periods of waiting are not signs of abandonment, but opportunities for growth, refinement, and preparation. God's timing is always perfect, and each difficulty we face is a divine setup for a greater breakthrough. Our responses to these tests reveal our faith, character, and trust in His purpose for our lives. Through isolation, stretching, and adversity, God molds us, expands our capacity, and strengthens our resolve. Every step, every challenge, and every moment of discomfort has a divine purpose that moves us closer to our destiny. Ultimately, the trials we face are not meant to break us, but to build us into the people God has called us to be, ready to walk in the fullness of the blessings and breakthrough He has planned for us.